Willow Smith's world was shattered in an instant. Her village burned, her family dead, all because of a traitor in their midst. But guess what? Life isn't done throwing curveballs at her. 3 years after the tragedy, she's trying to rebuild, only to bump into Riley. One touch, and it's electricity. But here's the catch: Riley's from a different pack, and his kind doesn't trust rogues like Willow. So what's the girl to do? And will Riley's pack accept their bond? Or will it all go up in flames like her village? Let's find out together. Prologue. Hun, come downstairs. We need to get you into your dress. I reluctantly tore my eyes away from the enchanting pages of my book, a small smile playing on my lips as I sent a mental message to my mother through our unique bond. Okay, coming. With a wistful sigh, I closed the novel and hurried down the stairs, my footsteps echoing in the quiet house. My mother stood at the bottom, the dress draped carefully over her arm, her eyes warm with anticipation. Let me guess, you were reading Perrin or Macy. A soft chuckle escaped me as I beamed at her, my love for literature evident in my sparkling eyes. Correction, I was reading Supernaturally. Mom's lips curved into an indulgent smile as she gently tugged me towards the living room. You and your books. They distract you from everything. But not tonight. You can change in here. The boys already left to meet with. I nodded obediently, my fingers already working to unfasten my everyday clothes while Mom carefully unfolded the dress. Soon, I stood in my undergarments, watching as she attempted to slip the dress over my head. I can put it on myself, you know. I resigned. Sigh left her lips as she handed me the dress. Fine, but I do the ribbon. Laughter bubbled up inside me as I began to don the garment. First over my head, then arms, then eggs, then legs, the soft fabric settling against my skin like a whisper. Okay, now turn around. Complying with her request, I pivoted to face away from her. The dress tugged gently at my waist as she adjusted it. Okay, you can go ahead and look in the mirror now. With a nod, I approached the mirror beside the television, my heart fluttering with anticipation. I froze, awestruck by my reflection. This was me, transformed. The dress was a vision of beauty, its hem kissing the skin just above my knees. The sleeves, loose and flowing, cascaded over my wrist like water. The print was mesmerizing, a delicate dance of pink and blue florals, accentuated by a pristine white ribbon encircling my waist. My gaze drifted to my face, unchanged yet somehow different. Perhaps it was the way the dress made my electric blue eyes pop, bringing out a vibrancy I'd never noticed before. In that moment, standing before the mirror, I felt a surge of gratitude for my mother's care and attention, realizing how this simple act of helping me prepare had brought us even closer. Mom, I looked perfect. Thanks so much. Anything for my only girl. Now go and join the party. I nodded and ran towards the door. Oh, and sweetie. I turned my head to face my mother. Yeah, Mom. Just keep in mind, you might meet your mate. I playfully rolled my eyes at her and ran out the door, meeting with the brisk wind. Willow, there you are. I thought you were going to skip the festival to read. I giggled and turned toward Paige. Yeah, well, Mom wanted me to come tonight. She nodded and made her way towards me. I love the dress. It makes your eyes pop. That's exactly what I thought when I looked in there. The air around me seemed to have gotten colder and I felt like my chest was tightening. It felt as if I was being squeezed, making it hard to breathe. Paige started to look around to see if anyone was around us before mind linking me. Are you having one of your feelings? I nodded. Something's not right. I walked towards the village's fence line and peered into the darkness of the forest. It felt like something was watching me. I could feel its eyes, but I cowled and see it. There you two are. Paige and I turned simultaneously towards the voice of my brother. Sam, what are you doing here? I asked while crossing my arms. Why, my young dear sister? I came to retrieve you. I rolled my eyes. And why are you talking like that? so I can be a very polite big brother for you. Now, where was I? Oh yes. Sam marched towards us and grabbed us by our wrist. Then he started to haul us towards the bonfire. I have two friends that would like to meet you too. No need to thank me. Boys. Paige and I shouted simultaneously. Except, hers was more excited. Mine was more like afraid. Nervous. Freaking out. Anything under those categories. Yes, indeed. They are boys. Not girls, but boys. And speaking of which, there they are. Sam released our wrists and pointed to two guys waiting beside each other. One was wearing a dark dress shirt with a tie and dark dress pants. The other was wearing the same but not as dark. And he had his hands in his pockets. Hey guys, over here, Sam called out. I froze as they started to make their way towards us. As for Paige, you could feel the excitement radiate off of her. I shot my head down as they got closer, not wanting to make contact. Hello. I looked up to the most beautiful hazel eyes I've ever seen. Oh, hi. Oh gosh. I stuttered. The guy standing in front of me held out his hand. Nick, and the other guy is Drew. We're friends with your brother. I hesitantly took his hand. Willow. A smile lit up on his face, taking me off guard. Willow Lich, with a perfect name for a beautiful girl like you. I felt a blush creep up my neck, so I looked away. That's my friend Paige, I said quickly to change the subject. We both looked towards our two friends who were flirting up a storm. Paige was blushing like a madwoman where Drew was trying to get really close to my friend. As they continued to flirt, Nick and I stood there in awkward silence. It was so uncomfortable. So, Nick started. Would you like to dance? Vampire Deception by Drake Mason and E.Y. Gwiat. As an undocumented changeling and forced to code as a low-level witch. What? I took a step back by the surprise. He chuckled and held out his hand. Not to be too forward, but I thought it would be a good idea. To break the ice and all. I mean, everyone is dancing around the bonfire. Our friends are obviously flirting, and your brother is checking out some girls. I took a glance at my brother. He really was. How could he just bring two guys over here and not talk to them? I turned back and took Nick's hand hesitantly. Sure. Nick's smile grew and he led me closer to the bonfire where the whole festival was. Wait. I don't know how to dance. He turned around and smiled. Look around. Most people are just bouncing around, but it still looks like they're doing it right. I nodded and he continued to pull me along. When we reached to where the pack was dancing, Nick turned around. You ready? I gave a small smile and nodded. I guess. The music was rock, so it was loud and easy to bounce to. I closed my eyes and let my body move to the music. When I opened them, I saw a surprised Nick. I thought you didn't know how to dance. A blush crept up my neck. I don't. He smiled and started to dance. Well, you're dancing pretty well. We continued to dance, and awfully close to. I haven't met my mate yet, but it still didn't feel right. It felt wrong, dangerous even. By the time we were done dancing, we were tired, exhausted. Nick took me by my hand and led me to where no other pack members were, behind a huge building, the pack house. What are we doing here? He turned and gave me another smile. But this one felt different. It felt off and a little threatening. He sat in the grass and patted a spot next to him. I thought we could get to know each other better. I nodded and sat beside him. So your brother told me that you're the... Well. He basically said you're the runt of the pack. I felt a lump swell in my throat. Why, out of all things? My brother tells him that in the runt. I sighed. Yeah. I'm not really good at anything, but he told me about your feelings, and how they're always right. That's something you're good at. Feeling things. I nodded. Yeah, for some reason I had these senses. I feel something. It turns out to happen. I'm just different. He surprised me by laughing. You're a good different. I mean, look at you. You're beautiful. And you're fun. I turned to him and gave him a genuine smile. I'm glad you think so. You're like the I started to tense. A feeling. I had one. I turned towards the fence line and peered out into the darkness of the forest. Again, there was something defiantly out there. I could smell it. It was a smell I didn't recognize. You okay? I snapped out of my reverie and turned towards Nick. Yeah. Just fine. He narrowed his eyes at me. You sure? You looked worried. I nodded. Yeah, I'm absolutely positive. I knew I didn't convince him, but there was nothing else I could do. So I said, trying to change the subject. Why weren't you with your mate? I mean, my brother told me that all of his friends already had theirs. He tensed at my question. I knew I had hit a nerve in him. Well, I rejected her. She was kicked out of the pack, so I had no choice, really. I could feel his pain in the air. For some reason, I felt like I had crossed the line. I didn't mean to. Now I have a question for you. I looked up at him, waiting patiently. Would you ever betray your pack? His question took me by surprise. Why would he ask me that? No, of course not. Yeah, they make fun of me for being different, but I wouldn't go that far. I felt his breath hitch a little. Vampire deception. I Drake Mason and EY Gwet, as an undocumented changeling and forced to code as a low-level witch. What? Did I hear him right? He reached into his pockets and pulled out a small glass bottle, a lighter, and a cigarette. What do you mean? He stood up and threw the glass bottle at the pack house, causing it to shatter and spill its contents on the wall. He then lit his cigarette and took a long drag of it. What I mean is that it looks like you won't live. I stood quickly and took a step away from him. What the heck are you talking about? He turned to me with an evil smirk on his face. Exactly what it means. He then threw his cigarette on the pack house. It immediately caught on fire. Gasoline. That's what was in the bottle. Howls started to erupt from the forest, startling me. What was going on? There was only one thing I could possibly do. Shift. I began to do so. My bones began to crack and snap and form. Patches of hair started to grow from my body and a snout started to form. I barely ever shifted, so the pain was unimaginable. I released a howl when the process was finished. Impressive. You know, you're the first blue I'd wolf 5e ever seen. A shame, though. He stepped closer, causing me to release a growl. All of a sudden, screeching and howls erupted from the village. We were under attack. I could sense it. I know you had your feeling when you were freaking out and looked towards the forest. So I'll go ahead and tell you what you felt. You felt a rogue. I took a step back, making Nick laugh. I'm sorry it had to be like this, but this is for the best. But I'll tell you what. It'll give you a chance to run away. I forced a growl out, trying to seem more confident. Rip him into shreds, my wolf stated. Nick turned his back on me and began to walk towards the screeching sounds of the innocent. You know, that was a beautiful dress. Too bad you ripped it. With that he disappeared into the smoke. It took me a moment, but I began to race towards my house. I had to get Mom. On my way, I passed the pack's hunters fighting with the rogues. But from what I could see, we were falling to them. I passed so many of my pack members' bodies. Blood was everywhere. I reached our house, but I saw the last thing I wanted to see. The house was burning. Mom, where are you? She didn't respond to the link. I began to run around the house, looking for her. Willow. I skidded to a halt and nearly collapsed at the sight. Mom was dying. She had red water surrounding her and she was sprawled onto the ground with many wounds in her. She wasn't even in wolf form. Sweetie, don't talk. Just listen, she said while breathing heavily. Just run. Get out of here. Please. She began to groan and I stepped forward. She tried to push me away, but she was running out of strength. Please. Gus, she went silent. She stopped moving. She was gone. My wolf began to go crazy. She began to fight for control, but I held her back. I released a howl of pain. They killed my mother. They killed her. It's all Nick's fault. Nick. I trusted him. We all did. He was friends with my older brother. Sam. I left him with Paige. I have to find them. I darted from my mother's body, swearing I'll bury it once this was over. As I took a turn towards the bonfire, I stopped. Sam was in wolf form holding off 3 rouges while Paige was still in human form, crying over a body. Drew. He wasn't part of the attack. I thought that he was since he came here with Nick, but I was wrong. Nick had tricked him. I was snapped from my reverie by a howl of pain. I looked at my brother who had taken down a rogue. He was one of the best fighters in the pack. He could hold his own. I ran to him and sent him a mind link. Where's David and Lance? It took a moment before he sent one back. They're on border control. My younger brothers were fighting. They should be trying to escape. I was snatched from my thoughts when a rogue swiped from my head. Luckily, Sam blocked it. You just get Paige out of here. She can't fight in the conditions she's in. I nodded and ran to Paige, immediately sending her a mind link. Turn to wolf form. We have to go. She looked up at me with emotionals as eyes. He might have been my mate Willow. Paige, please, just turn. She nodded slowly and began to turn, whimpers escaping her mouth. When she finished, she stepped beside me. I'm ready. I nodded and began to run. Paige in pursuit. Sam was still holding the rogues back, buying us time. We passed so many bodies. It was hard to distinguish with how fast we were running. All of the buildings were on fire. Some of our pack members were just sitting in the grass by their burning houses, awaiting their death. I shook the thought of them out of my head and continued to run. Willow, we're about to pass the fence line. I nodded and pushed myself to run faster. We have to pass it and keep running. Find somewhere safe. I knew by Paige's silence that she understood. She just didn't want to accept the fact that we were actually leaving the village. When we were closing up on the fence line, we didn't slow down. Instead, we started to push ourselves to the limit to speed up. Then, we did. We jumped over the fence line. Can we stop now? I shook my head. Not stopping at all. We have to go farther. Away from this. I could feel her uneasiness, but I knew she agreed. We continued to run for 10 more minutes at full speed until I collapsed from weakness. Are you okay? I nodded and tried to stifle my heavy panting, but it was no use. Willow, Jan, if you look back at the village, it doesn't look like it's on fire. It looks like the festival is still in full swing. I looked towards our village as Paige was doing. She was right. But if only it was just the festival. Mom wouldn't be dead. Paige. My mom. She's dead. I began to whimper and Paige started to nudge me. Who knew that the festival of celebrating the moon goddess would be so painful? I nearly jumped up as howls started to erupt from nearby. The rogues. They were tracking us. Willow, Willow. Can you stand? I tried to lift myself up but fell right back down. No, I can't. You just keep going. Paige shook her head. Turn to human form. I'll carry you on my back. But I have no clothes. She started to nudge me. Who cares? Just hurry. I nodded and began to shift. My bones began cracking and popping back into place. The fur on my body began to disappear along with my snout. Soon I was a 15-year-old girl in the nude next to a giant wolf. Now climb on. I nodded and did so. Once I was on top, I held onto her fur tight, letting her know I was ready. She began to run as fast as she could, but I could tell she was too tired. Willow, which Willow? How close are they? I looked back and peered into the darkness. Too close. About 20 feet. I could feel Paige start to growl. Rub your arms on my fur now. I didn't ask questions. I did exactly what she said. Willow, Willow. I promise you, we will see each other again. Paige, what are you? Before I could finish, Paige bucked me off of her. My body began to roll down one of the steep hills in the forest. I crashed into many bushes and trees. And worst of all, the rogues were still chasing my friend. That's when I understood it. She had me rub my scent onto her. She was risking her life for me. She wanted me to survive. My body continued to roll. I could feel wounds etching themselves into my torso, arms and legs, and when my head hit an oak tree, I didn't feel anything else. I saw complete and total darkness, and I welcomed it. Chapter 1 at morning. When I awoke from the sun hitting my eyes, all my pain returned. I looked down at my body and automatically blushed. I was without clothes, and that's when the memories of last night returned. So much death, so much fire. It was all too much. I hastily got to my feet and started to shift so that I wouldn't be without clothes anymore. My bones began to crack and shift. Fur started to sprout from my body, and a snout formed. The process didn't hurt as bad as it did last time, but it was still painful. When I was fully shifted, I began to hike up the hill. From where I was at, I could smell the smoke of my village. I already knew it was all gone, but I couldn't think that. There could be injured survivors there, but there was only one thing that was racing through my mind. The promise I made last night. I had to bury Mother. Just the thought of her death made tears prick my eyes. It wasn't fair. She was one of the only pack members that didn't care I was different. And now, she was gone. I shook the thought from my head and continued to climb. When I reached the top of the hill, I immediately paused. The whole forest was quiet. Usually there would be birds chirping by now, but there was no sound. None. I began to walk up the path to the village. The trail I was on had dozens of footprints. I could tell which ones were the rogues and which ones were Paige's just by looking at them. Paige. She was somewhere out there, either dead or suffering. And it was all my fault. More tears threatened to spill, but I held them back. Come on, Willow. Get a hold of yourself. Shess alive. Paige is alive. As I continued, the smell of smoke got stronger, and the memories of screams filled my head. I forced myself to keep going, even though my legs were aching and the memories were painful. But all I could think about was that I wanted to get to the village fast. I came to a halt when I heard rustling in a bush. A rogue. I got into fighting position and started to growl. If it's a rouge, kill it. After all it did to us, it should suffer. Looks like my wolf was still active. I promise I will. Don't worry. Before I knew it, a red fluffy ball jumped from the bush. I ducked as it flew over my head. The thing was crazy. I turned to face it, but it wasn't what I expected it to be. A fox. I could see fear in its eyes, most likely because I looked so threatening. So I did the simplest thing I could. I stopped growling. When it realized I was going to hurt it, it started to wag its fluffy tail and bounce its way up to me. I didn't have time for this. I turned my back on it and started to make my way to the village. Big mistake. It started to whimper and whine. Now, and not the type of person who just abandons a creature that's just sitting there and crying. So you could imagine what I did. I turned around and nudged it with my snout. That's all it took. It stopped its little fit and actually tried to play with me. It began to circle my legs beneath me and playfully bite my toes. That's when I realized it. Only baby animals do that. It was just a pup. Just tell the damn thing to go away. We have some place to be. My wolf stated sternly. But it's so cute. I can't just leave it here. My wolf was right though. I really needed to be somewhere. But how could I abandon this fox? That's when the idea came to me. I would just bring it along. I nudged the fox from underneath me and picked it up by its neck roll. It tried to give up a fight but eventually gave up and just let me hold on to it. So there I continued my walk with my new companion. Foxy. They'll just change its name later. When we reached the fence line, I nearly collapsed. Everything was ashes. There were some buildings left, but they were badly burnt. Everywhere I looked, there were bodies with ashes on top. And they weren't just deceased adults. There were children as well. Some were in human form, but from what I could see, most of the pack were in wolf form. I gently placed the tiny fox down and made my way to where I had left my mother, by our burning house. The house was in ashes now. Nothing stood to indicate that it was even a building. The only thing that was noticeable was a body. Mom's body. She was in the position I had left her in, sprawled onto the grass with red water surrounding her. I'd promised myself I would come back to bury you, Mom. I'm sorry I couldn't have saved you. If a wolf could cry, I was doing a pretty good job at it. I could feel tears stain my fur. She really is gone, isn't she? I nodded to my wolf. Yeah, she really is. I jumped at the sound of a squeaky bark. When I turned, I saw the fox with a ratted, blue dress in its mouth. I guess the fox is good for something. I began to shift back, ignoring the pain. When I was finished, I reached for the dress the fox was holding. It gave it up willingly. Isn't this Mom's old blue dress? Tears that I didn't realize were there started to trickle down my face. Yeah, it is. I slipped the dress on. You know those dresses that are from like the 80s. They're short-sleeved, go over your knees, and they sprawl out. Well, that's what this dress was. And it was Mom's favorite color, baby blue. Well, hell witch. Well, look who's back. I shivered at the voice of the man who started this. What are you doing here? I asked sternly. Oh, don't treat me like that. I just came to look at the scene. I didn't expect to see you here in another beautiful dress. I turned to Nick with hatred in my eyes. Why did you do it? His face went emotional as he sighed. You know how I told you my mate was kicked out of the pack, and I had to reject her because of it. Well, witch, well, now there's no pack. I can have the love of my life. She said all I had to do was this. So I can't you see she's manipulating you? She doesn't care about you. And you stand up for her. Within seconds Nick had me by the throat, feet dangling above the ground. All I could do was struggle, but each time I did that his grip tightened. She's my mate. I have to stand up for her. I have to love her, or else I get hurt. Do you know the pain of it? Oh wait. That's right. You don't. You've never even met your mate. He released his grip and I fell to the ground, coughing like crazy. You just don't understand, Willow. A pain is unbearable, he said while turning his back to me. HES telling me about pain. Him he ruined my life. Pain. I choked out while getting to my feet. You're going to tell me about pain. You destroyed my life. You murdered my friends and family. And you're telling me about pain. I charged him with balled fist. I knew that he sensed me coming, but he didn't move when I struck him. I kept hitting and hitting him, but he just stood there, taking all the hits. I hate you. I hate you. I want you to just die. Tears began to well up in my eyes and trickle down. Why, how could he do this? Nick quickly turned around and grabbed my wrists. I'm sorry, Willow. I wish it didn't have to be this way. You can come with me. We have a pack of our own. Just take my hand. I shoved him off of me and crumpled to the ground. Why would I join a traitor and a group of murderers? He sighed and started to rub the back of his neck. You know, if I would've just forgotten about my mate when I rejected her, this would've never happened, and I would've fallen in love with you. I looked up at him as the wind started to pick up. His brown locks started to rustle and his eyes showed sorrow. You would have fallen in love with me. He nodded and turned his back on me. I know I love my mate, but for some reason, I can't stop thinking about you. Tears began to spill from my eyes. He loves me. Don't listen to him. We have a mate of our own somewhere out there. I ignored my wolf. Last night, I went to your house and packed your clothing, your books, and some food in a trunk and left it beside the fence line before your house got on fire. I knew you would want to come back. I don't know why I did it though. He began to walk away. Maybe we'll see each other again. I wish for that day, but that he disappeared into the forest. I dried my eyes with the palms of my hands and looked around the ashes. Foxy was jumping and bouncing into several piles of it, trying to entertain itself. I don't think I can forgive him with all the damage he did. Just forget about what he said. Let's just concentrate on burying our pack members and burning the dead rogues. I nodded in agreement. My wolf was right. There are other things to worry about. I got back to my feet and made my way to one of the buildings that weren't down. The tool shack. The door was missing, so it was easy to get in. And the tool that I wanted was lying on the ground. A shovel. I grabbed it by its hilt and dragged it out. And I found that was perfect for the grays. I began to dig. First hole. For the alpha. Killed in battle. Second hole. Little witch. Second hole. For the Luna. Killed in battle. Third hole. For the beta. Killed in battle. Fourth hole. For Aviary Smith. Killed in battle. Fifth hole. For Sam Smith. Killed in battle. Sixth hole. For Lance Smith. Killed in battle. Seventh hole. For David Smith. Killed in battle. I kept digging hole after hole until each member of my pack had 87 holes. I then went to each body and hauled them to their graves. Each one I cried for. After burying them, I dragged the shovel back to the tool shack and took the gasoline tank and matches. It's time to light them up. I nodded and went back outside. I placed the tank and matches down, then began to drag the bodies of the dead rogues and pile them up. Are you ready? As ready as I can be. I nodded and went to retrieve the gas tank and matches. Once when I had the gasoline tank in hand, I began to pour its contents onto the stack of bodies. Then I lit the matches and threw it onto them as well. They were in flames. I nearly jumped when I felt something wet stroke my bare feet. Chill. It's the fox. I looked down at the fox who was seeking for attention. What do you want? It ignored me and curled into a ball. You know what? You know what? I think I'll call you Foxface. I smiled lightly at the name. It was from a book Mom had gotten me a while back. The Hunger Games. Suits you better than Foxy. I picked up the tiny thing and started to stroke it gently. Can you go look for a house that's not badly burnt? I'm pretty sure the fox understood, because it hopped from my hands and ran to one of the buildings. Let's go retrieve our stuff. I nodded and searched for the trunk that was the fence line. Soon I spotted it. As I was walking towards the trunk, howls started to erupt from deep within the forest. The rogue? Don't worry about it. Those are howls of departure. They're leaving and going somewhere else. I released a breath I had no idea I was holding. I really couldn't deal with anything else. When I reached the trunk, I grabbed it by one of its handles and began to drag it. Soon enough, I was in the house the fox picked out with my trunk at my feet. This is where I would start my new life. In my dead village. I'm going to rebuild everything but live alone, with the acceptation of Foxface, but I would be known as a rogue to other wolves and packs. I have nowhere else to turn to but here. Chapter to Foxface. Time for lunch. I shouted as I placed a small bowl of rabbit meat onto the ground. A moment later, an average-sized fox came striding in through the door. It's been 3 years since I first met Foxface. 3 years since I became a rogue. And 3 years since my friends and family died because of me. But now, nothing bad happens. When the rogue attack happened, it caused my village to burn down. It took me a whole day just to bury everyone. A week to clear all the ash. And a month to build a stronger wall around the destroyed village. With the wall, it's easier to be protected. Rogues usually pass by, but they know better than to bother coming in. A year after the attack, all the plants and trees that were burned down started to grow again. Now the village looks like a camouflaged fortress. Okay, Foxface, you hold down the fort. I'm just going to go out and pick some berries. The fox looked up from its bowl to look at me and nodded, then continued to eat. I exited the dining room and entered the corridor, but then I realized I forgot to grab something. I mentally slapped my face, since I was going to go gather today instead of hunt. I was going to need my basket. I ran back into the dining room and retrieved my basket from the table. Then I ran back through the corridor and out the door. When I stepped outside, The breeze slapped me in the face. Around me, the trees and bushes were rustling. Hum. Strong wind. I didn't mind the wind though. In fact, I enjoyed it. I loved it how it would gently raise my long blonde hair and have it surround me. It was absolutely breathtaking. Don't forget to pay them a visit, Willow. You've been forgetting a lot of things lately. I shook my head at my wolf. I won't. Don't worry. And hey, I only forgot the basket. But I quickly remembered that. Sure. Just wait until you look into a mirror. Until I look into a mirror. Oh, forget it. Now let's get going. Phew. Okay. I'm going. I did as my wolf told me and began to stroll down a little dirt path to visit them. When I reached their resting spots, I crouched down and placed a hand on one of the gravestones made of bark. Willow Smith, cause of death. Killed in battle 19,732,013. Loving mother Sam Smith, David Smith, Lance Smith, and Willow Smith. Hey guys. I just wanted to stop by and say I miss you all so much. A lot has happened since you all, died. Like, you should have seen Fox's face yesterday. He caught a rabbit and literally did a backflip of joy. That was lunch for today. Right now I'm going to gather some berries to make a nice pie. You'll try to stop by tomorrow. Love y'all. I knew they heard when the breeze shifted a little. It was just a small feeling I had. I just felt like they were dwelling in the breeze. All right, let's go get us some berries. I nodded and got to my feet. It's been a while since I actually went gathering. I actually tried to grow my own fruit and vegetables so that I didn't actually leave the safety of the wall. Well, let's just say the crops didn't turn out well. I began my pursuit towards the opening of the wall. As I was trudging along, the breeze started to shift. It seemed the wind had gotten colder and the air was too thin to breathe in. I recognized this feeling, and I haven't felt this since that one day, 3 years ago. Could it be him? Nick. I shook the crazy thought from my head. That idea was preposterous. I haven't seen him in forever. Why would he show up now? It's not him. Trust me, this feeling was a bit different. Let's just focus on the berries. The sooner we get them, the sooner we come back. I nodded and continued towards the opening. Soon enough I was no longer in the safety of my wall. Well, where should we look for the berries first? It took a while before my wolf answered me. She was thinking. Hum. Do they even think? I should probably keep that scenario to myself. Keep straight. I smell something really good that way. Must be some delicious berries. Wait, how can my wolf smell that if she's in me? Do we share the same nose? Hey, are you listening to me? I said go straight. Oh right. My bad. Sorry. I was just thinking about something. I shook the crazy idea from my head and marched onward, to the berries. For some reason, as I continued to walk, my body started to shiver. Tingle. Something it's never done before. It was non-stop. Are you sure the berries are over here? I asked while shaking. Not that I wanted to though. No answer. Hello. Yeah. I'm absolutely positive. And they smell so good. Oh great moon goddess. It's driving me crazy. Whoa. Okay. Calm yourself. If only I was paying attention to where my feet were stepping. But of course, I wasn't. I tripped over a small log and began to tumble. And of course, the tumbling turned into rolling. Why, oh why? Out of all places to fall on my face, it has to be on a small hill. When the rolling ceased, I slowly got to my feet and picked up my basket, which by the way survived the fall. Willow, you are a klutz. Hay was too busy talking to you. So therefore, wait, look, the berries. I turned and saw the tiniest bush I'd ever seen. Those are the berries. I crouched down and started to poke them. These are the berries. They're so tiny, and they're not even ripe. I don't think these ones are even edible. Wait. Shit. Be quiet and listen. Just do it. Whoa, temper much. I nodded and started to listen. There was no sound, only the chirping of birds and the howl of the wind. But then I heard leaves crunching. Crunch after crunch. That's the smell. Does my wolf really want me to see what is making that crunching sound? Go see what it is. I guess so. I whispered in a hushed tone. I really don't want to die today. Let's just go back home. No, please. It really smells good. And it obviously has an effect on you. Let's just take a look. I shook my head and turned towards the hill. No, I'm sorry. I just really want to go back home now. I was about to take a step when the voices started to speak. Riley, are you sure there's a flower out here? There was a pause before the other spoke. Yeah, I'm positive. I can smell it. It's absolutely captivating. A shiver ran down my spine. Two guys. Men were coming right towards me, and I was too afraid to climb back up the hill. Riley, wait. Someone else is out here. From what I can sense. It's a female. What are you waiting for, Willow? You said you didn't want to see what? See who they are. But now you're just sitting there waiting to be spotted. I cowed in reply. My body felt weird. I've never felt anything like this. It was like I was going insane. A girl. Where? Right ahead. Where this so-called flower is. Hum. Let's just check it out. The crunching of the leaves got heavier, and the smell that my wolf was smelling was right under my nose. Come on, Willow. Move. I shook my head and snapped out from my trance. What the heck was I thinking? I began to ascend the hill, but it was already too late. Hello. I froze, not wanting to move. You know I can. Well, metal witch, we can see you. I turned slowly, but kept my eyes closed shut. Speak. Don't act suspicious. I nodded. Hi. So she speaks. Can she open her eyes? Oh gosh, this was torture. Riley, why is she wearing an apron? That got my attention. My eyes snapped open and immediately looked towards my clothes. Oh gosh, I was wearing my apron. I told you that you were forgetting something. I shook my head. Stupid wolf. Does the apron lady have a name? I looked up at the two men in front of me, but really only saw one. He was tall and handsome and captivating and… Oh God, what am I thinking? The strange thing was, he was looking at me the same way I was him, like we were in a trance. Our attention was snapped from each other by a cough. Well, as a witch, since you won't answer Riley, I guess I'll do the introductions. I'm Kyle, the beta of our pack. And this is Riley, HES the alpha. Now, who are you? Who am I? My God, you're Willow. Oh right, silly me. I'm Willow. The guy named Riley smiled. That's a perfect name for you. So if I may ask, where's your pack? You shouldn't be out here alone. My pack, they're dead. I'm a rogue. Packs kill rogues. They could kill me. Oh God, I'm gonna die. I turned my back on them and darted up the hill. I am not going to die today. Hey, wait. I ignored him and kept running. Willow. Not now. Willow. I hope you know they're chasing us. Wait. What? I glanced back and started to freak out. They are. They really were chasing me. And they were going full speed. I'm going to die. Willow, witch, Willow. Stop. Why are you running? Hurry, Willow. We're almost home. I nodded and pushed myself to go faster. I have to get inside my wall. They wouldn't dare to come in, would they? Soon enough, I made it. I was in my village, but I still didn't stop running. I had to get to Fox Face. Fox Face. I yelled while running. A moment later, my fuzzy friend came striding from the house. He cocked his head to the side. Sound the alarms. Do something. We're under attack. Willow, they're here. I skidded to a stop and looked behind me. My eyes widened. Riley and Kyle came charging in. Kyle seemed to have lost breath and stopped running at the entrance. But Riley was still running at full speed. Move, Willow. I can't. If my eyes could widen anymore. They did. He was coming right at me. I really am going to die. Move, Willow. I can't stop. Riley shouted, trying to slow down. I closed my eyes and held out my hands. A moment later, he crashed into me and we tumbled. When we stopped tumbling, I opened my eyes. Riley was on top of me. Oh God. I'm sorry, Willow. I didn't mean to. He sat himself up to where he was straddling me. Oh shit. Your hurt. Here, let me just. He put the palm of his hand on my arm where I had scraped myself from the crash. Immediately sparks flew up my arm and engulfed my body. His eyes widened. Mate. Did I hear him right? Mate. I shook my head at my wolf. Impossible. But I cowled and helped but question it. Mate. God, I stuttered. He nodded and leaned down to where his mouth was by my ear. Mate. Chapter 3 Wait. Why, you're my mate. Riley nodded and finally got up off of me. Yeah, I guess so. He happily said while holding out his hand. I hesitantly took it, but nearly let go as my arm was engulfed by sparks. When I was hauled up from my butt, Kyle quickly ran up to us. Holy crap, guys. Are you guys okay? I swear I heard a loud crunching sound. He heard what? Oh gosh. If I end up having brain damage. No man. We're fine. Right, Willow? I nodded. Oh yeah. Perfectly fine. Riley's smile soon faded. Why did you run? I shook my head. The truth. They both nodded simultaneously. I looked down at my feet. What am I supposed to say? Oh, yeah. I ran away from you because I thought you were going to kill me. That's not going to turn out well. Just say it. HS our mate. He won't kill us. I think. She thinks. Well, I guess if she thinks so, then he won't kill me. I ran because I looked up into Riley's eyes and saw concern. I ran because I thought you guys were going to kill me. Wow, oh wet. I can't believe you actually said it. What? It was clear that my wolf told me to say that. All of a sudden they both erupted into laughter. Willow, which Willow? Why on earth would we kill you? Riley asked while cracking up. Kyle spoke up while clutching his stomach. For a gather you sure are stupid. For some reason that didn't seem offensive. I don't know why. But for some reason I started to laugh along. This just felt right. Me and Riley were still laughing when Kyle just froze. Wait, guys. Have you noticed anything strange? Noticed what? Riley and I asked simultaneously, causing us to laugh even harder. He started looking around. This village is completely empty. I swear my heart stopped. They were going to find out. Find out I was alone in a rouge. Then they would either kill me or leave me, and if Riley reject me, then I would feel the pain Mick mentioned all those years ago. Yeah, Riley said, snapping me out of my reverie. Come to think about it, this village seems abandoned. Where is everyone, Willow? Tears sprung to my eyes, causing worry to flash across Riley's face and confusion across Kyle's. Riley quickly grabbed a hold of my shoulders. W, what's wrong? D, did I upset you? I covered my eyes with my hands and shook my head. No, you didn't do anything. I didn't want to tell him everyone was dead, but I had to. I crumpled to the ground, tears flowing from eyes. Riley still held on to me, so he was on the ground too. Willow, please, just tell me what's wrong. I promise I'll make it better. I nodded my head, but kept crying. TH, the village. TH, they're all. I cowled and finished. For some reason I didn't want to finish that sentence. Arms wrapping around me snapped me from my thoughts. I took my hands from my eyes and saw total blackness. It was soft and had a very fascinating smell. I just wanted to sit there and stay like this. But the blackness shifted, revealing a muscular arm. The whole time I was crying into Riley's shoulder, getting his shirt soaked. Shit. It's okay. I promise it'll be alright. He continued to coo. I gripped his arm tightly. They're all gone. Dead. Riley pulled away from me and cocked his head. What do you mean? Kyle knelt down next to Riley and gripped his shoulder, causing Riley to look at him. Chasse rouge. Her whole pack is dead. I covered my face with my hands, not wanting to look him in the eyes. I am sorry. That's why I ran. But you just had to follow me. I felt his arms leave my body and heard him stand, causing me to cry harder. How did they die? M, my brother's friend. He betrayed us and L let the Rouges in. They killed everyone. And they burned everything. I couldn't stop crying and stuttering. He was going to reject me. I knew he was. I don't want him to. I feel like he'd die if he did. I nodded. What did you do to the bodies? I looked up at him. He showed no emotion on his face. He must hate me now. What? I asked. What did you do with the bodies? I slowly got up and grabbed his hand. His eyes widened, probably from the static-like feeling. I turned around, still holding onto his hand. Then I began to pull. At first, he kept his ground, but then he followed. I stayed silent the whole time, trying to stifle my sobs. The only sound was the two men whispering. Are you sure we can trust her? Kyle. Of course. Shess my mate. I have to. Riley. He accepts me as his mate, but will he reject me later? Kyle didn't answer back, most likely shocked from the fact I was Riley's mate. The rest of the way to the graves was silent. No one made a sound. When we got there, I immediately dropped Riley's hand and went up to one of the graves and crouched down. Aviary Smith, cause of death. Killed in battle 19,732,013. Loving mother Sam Smith, David Smith, Lance Smith, and Willow Smith. Hey Mom, this might be the last time I talk to you. I just wanted to thank you for everything. You buried them all. I nodded at Riley's voice. They all deserved something better, but this is all that I could manage. I looked at Riley. He was showing sorrow. Riley, Kyle said, there's a total of 87 graves. Riley took slow steps towards me. His fists clenched. Was he going to hurt me? I closed my eyes, not wanting to see a fist come at me, but I was surprised when his strong arms wrapped around me. What? He sighed. I'm sorry, Willow. I'm sorry that you lost everything and had to face it on your own. And I'm sorry I was a jerk to you. It's just that you're Eau Rouge, and Rouges are usually, crazy, and I'm sorry that. I cut him off. It's fine. You don't have to be sorry for anything. He pulled away, a smile on his face. Do you forgive me? I nodded. How can I be mad at you? Kyle began to laugh and Riley began to chuckle. That's when I realized it. I just technically flirted with someone I barely knew. Kill me now. I felt a blush creep up my neck. It's fine. I know what you meant, Riley said before he winked, causing me to blush even more. So Kyle started. What do we do now? Riley grinned widely, still staring at me. Easy. We call back home. Within seconds, Riley had a phone pulled out. A phone. Gosh. I haven't won in 3 years. Do you know how crazy that is? He dialed a number and started to talk in his cellular device, but I didn't really pay much attention. I was just so hooked up on the phone. Okay, bye. Riley hung up and glanced at me. When he caught me staring wide-eyed, he gave me a smile that showed of his pearly whites. What? It's just that I haven't. Well, the hell, I haven't seen a cell phone in 3 years. So it's like, fascinating. His smile got bigger. Gosh. I just wanted to kiss his lips and, now get a hold of yourself, Willow. Before I knew it, he tossed me his phone, which I'd barely caught. A phone. A freaking phone was in my hands. Oh, how I feel blessed. I fisted the air and started to giggle. Yes, behold, God's mighty creation. A cell phone. Riley and Kyle started to crack up. Wow, Riley. You sure got lucky with her. Riley nodded. Yeah, I know. I started to blush. Again. All right, guys. Riley said. Let's go back to the pack. Go back. They're leaving already. They started to walk away and just stood there, stealing at the ground with a cell in my hand. Willow. I looked up to a very confused Kyle. What? He smiled. You do know you're coming with us, right? My face lit up. Did he say what I think he just said? I could tell my wolf was excited. I nodded ferociously. I can't believe it. Am going with my mate. I quickly jogged up to catch up to Riley, leaving Kyle behind, who was laughing like crazy. Wait. Riley stopped to look at me. What about my stuff? He smiled. Well, I called my parents to send to other members to come here and get the stuff in that burned house, he said while pointing to my little house thingy. Then he continued to walk. Wait. He started to crack up. Yes, what about Foxface? He cocked his head. Who? I smiled and whistled. A couple seconds later, Foxface came striding to us, just as Kyle was catching up. Foxface. This is Riley and Kyle. We're going with them to their pack. Foxface nodded at them, making their mouths drop. I began to giggle. That Fox can understand you? Kyle questioned, still surprised. I nodded. Of course he can. Before I knew it, Riley slung his arm over my shoulder. Let's get going. Okay. A blush crept up my neck as I nodded. Oh yeah. He smiled one of his perfect smiles as we began walking, with Foxface and Kyle in pursuit. Can I just tell you how much I hate walking? I mean, seriously. It sucks. Within 30 minutes of walking to Riley's and Kyle's village, my feet ached. I wish I was a fox, because Foxface wasn't breaking a sweat. Oh, hey, Willow. I looked at Riley and smiled. Yeah. He smiled back. May I have my phone back? His phone? Oh, right. I looked down at my hands, which held his cell phone, and frowned. Goodbye, oh holy phone. I will miss you so. Yeah, sure, I said while smiling. Then I tossed his phone to him, which he easily caught. So, Willow. I glanced at Kyle. Yeah. He smiled. How long have you lived in that burnt-down village? Ever since we've been born. I shook my head. Well. Technically since it was first burned down. So 3 years. He nodded and looked ahead. Before I knew it, I tripped on a log and fell on my face. Mother Nature, why do you hate me so much? I quickly stood like nothing happened, which caused everyone, not including Foxface, to start laughing. I'm such a klutz. Wow, Riley said while laughing. You're such a klutz. See what I mean? It's not my fault. I wind. My feet ache. Within seconds, Riley had me swooped up into his arms, causing me to blush. Well, of course they do. A princess shouldn't be walking. My face ended up getting hotter after that comment. If it was possible, steam would probably be rising from my face. Go ahead and get comfortable, Riley said. We've got a lot more ground to cover before we get there. Kyle joined in. Yeah, like 45 minutes worth. I nodded and nuzzled my head into Riley's shoulder. Gosh, it smelled good. I just wanted to stay like this forever. Before I knew it, I had fallen asleep. Willow, Willow. I'll wake up. We're here. I opened my eyes to see Riley smiling down at me. We're here. Oh right. His and Kyle's village. When I sat up in Riley's arms to look ahead, my eyes widened. There stood the biggest village they'd ever seen. Trust me, it was huge. Let's just say, I could already tell I was going to fit in. Chapter for Welcome Back, Alpha. It's great to see you again, Alpha. That's all I heard. Apparently Riley was some huge thing. Of course he is. HES the alpha. I shook my head and started to look around. I was getting so many evil eyes, mostly from girls, that it was hard to breathe. But I was probably receiving a lot of them because Riley was still holding me in his arms. I took one of my hands and grasped Riley's shirt. Riley, you should probably put me down now. He looked down at me and cocked his eyebrow. Why? I don't know why, but a blush started to creep up my neck. Because I'm attracting a lot of attention. He smiled and looked around us. Huh, I guess you are. Oh well, they'll have to get over themselves. I shrunk into his arms and nuzzled my head into his shoulder, taking in his scent. You don't mind if I do this then, do you? I heard a small laugh leave his lips. Not at all. I actually think it's really cute. Gosh, I'm starting to like this man. I smiled, but it was concealed by his dark shirt. This is truly the happiest moment I've lived in a while. We kept walking through the village. Well, I didn't. Just Riley, Kyle, and Fox Face. But I could still feel the sharp glares in my back from all the people watching and welcoming. Welcome back, big brother. Big brother. Hey, heaven. I felt Riley kneel down, making me a bit uncomfortable. But I didn't do anything about it. I just nuzzled more into his shoulder. I'm sorry, sis. I couldn't get you your flower, but I got something better. I could feel eyes watching me. Who is that or why? How cute. I'll call him that later. It's my princess. I had to travel far and wide just to find her. But alas, I think she fell asleep again. I heard a small giggle. Why? Is the princess your mate? I could hear excitement in the girl's voice. Ah, indeed, little sister. And you see that fox over there? Well, that's her trusty companion. There was silence, that is, until a little squeal was sounded. Then I heard the sound of feet shuffling a little ways from us. The fox. We're going to have so much fun. They'll make you a crown, and I'll make you cookies. And we'll have parties where only princes and princesses are invited. I smiled. Looks like Foxface is going to be getting a lot of attention. You know. You're really bad at fake sleeping, Riley whispered in my ear. I looked up to see him staring at me with a glint in his eyes. Oh gosh, I could just lose myself in them. Sorry, I just didn't want to interrupt you guys' conversation. Why? A blush covered his face. Then he stood up. TSK. Princesses shouldn't be eavesdropping on conversations. Well, it sure is hard when I'm literally in the middle of them. He laughed and continued to walk, leaving behind Foxface with Heaven. Hey Riley, what are you going to say to your parents? I looked at Kyle, which was very hard from my position, by the way. He had a point. Everyone knows that it's forbidden to mate with a rouge. I don't think it's even happened. What if we're not accepted? We might get kicked out. Nonsense. Only the alpha and Luna can kick someone out of a pack. It doesn't matter. Today is my ceremony. I can't say anything against me today. I looked up at Riley. Why died? He wasn't alpha yet. But why did everyone call him that? Because his ceremony is today, you idiot. I shook my head. But if HE's not the alpha, then that means I can still get kicked out. Riley, doesn't that mean I could still be thrown out? He looked at me with concern in his eyes. I won't let them. I promise. I nodded and looked towards where we were heading. You know those houses that look like fare for rich people? Well, that's where we were headed. It was a house that had stone steps leading to the front door, had pillars, a bunch of cars, vines going up the side, and was super big. If I would most likely get lost and die. I pointed to it with my mouth gaped. Is that your house? Riley let loose a laugh. Not half my parents' and sister's house. Mine is much more smaller, I sighed, and I nodded but still gaped. It was just unbelievable. With me in Riley's arms and Kyle walking beside us, we started to ascend the stairs. Gosh, I was nervous. For all I knew, Riley's parents were a bunch of crabby people. Hey Willow, a word of advice. I looked towards Kyle and cocked my eyebrow. Yeah. He gave a sweet smile. Not as sweet as Riley's though, and replied, You might want to act like you're asleep. Riley's folks might think it's pretty weird for him to be carrying a girl who's wide awake. You know how parents are. I nodded. Speaking of his parents, what are they like? In a matter of seconds, Kyle was hovering over me with the creepiest smile I've ever seen as he started to wiggle his fingers in my face. They're absolutely horrible. They get one look at you, then they judge you. Then while you sleep, they pour a bucket of spiders on your head. My eyes wide, and with frightened I began to shake. Spiders. Oh yes. And not only. Before Kyle and I knew it, Riley kicked him in the gut, sending Kyle tumbling down the hard stone stairs that we've been walking up. Stop scaring my mate. I looked over at Kyle as he continued to tumble, then at Riley, again at Kyle, then back at Riley. Is he going to be okay? Riley started to continue up the steps with a smile on his face. Oh, just fine. There's a reason why HES the beta. I glanced back down the steps. Kyle got to his feet and began to shout. No doubt in my mind that he was shouting a series of swear words. Then he began to climb back up the steps. When we reached the giant door, Riley looked down at me. You ready? I shook my head and nuzzled into his shoulder, acting like I was asleep. No, I am. He laughed and began to pound on the door. I heard the door open and a woman speak. Riley, welcome back. Oh, who's this? I'll tell you when I get inside. Is Dad home? Sure thing. HES in the living room sleeping. I felt Riley nod. Oh, and leave the door open for Kyle. He fell down the steps. I almost began to giggle but held it in. I heard the woman sigh. Again. Yes, Mum. Then Riley began to walk. As we entered the house, a whole bunch of new smells whacked me in the face. And they sure did smell good. I felt Riley take some turns before he stopped. Then I felt him sit down. Honey, Riley's here, the woman said. I heard a yawn before a man spoke. Oh, Riley, you're back. Welcome. And who's this young lady you have in your arms? Well, Dad. That's why I'm here. You see, this is Willow. She's my mate. Both of them gasped before the woman replied. How do you know? Well, Mom, I accidentally crashed into her. And when I touched her, I felt those sparks that you guys told me about. It was amazing. I heard a small chuckle. Congratulations, son. So whose pack is she a part of? Riley sighed. Well, a section by Drake Myth. You know that forest fire we saw 3 years ago from our tower? Yes, they both said simultaneously. Well, you see, that was her pack. They were under attack by a small army of Rouges. She was the only survivor. The woman gasped, then spoke up. May we talk to her? I felt Riley nod before he whispered in my ear. Rise and shine. I could just hear the smirk in his voice. Well, it's acting time. I slowly rose from Riley's arms and released a yawn while stretching. Then I took a look around. The living room was huge. It had a huge flat screen on the wall along with speakers. There were 2 sofas, one which Riley and I occupied. The chairs which one was occupied by the man, who I'm guessing is Riley's father, and a large coffee table. I looked at the woman and smiled. She looked pretty young for being a mother. She had no wrinkles whatsoever. She had Ryan's eyes and hair, hazel with a speck of green, and short brown hair. I looked towards the man and smiled at him. He had green eyes with short blonde hair. He too looked pretty young. The only thing noticeable were some dark circles under his eyes. I looked at Riley and smiled, but that quickly changed when I noticed Ty was still on his lap. I released a squeak and quickly squirmed off of him, blushing. Hi, I'm Suzy Hollingsworth. And this is my husband, Damien Hollingsworth, she said while holding out her hand. I took her hand and shook it just as Damien spoke. I can introduce myself, hon. I giggled as Suzy rolled her eyes. Damien was about to speak, but was interrupted by a sweaty Kyle. I'm here. I survived. Kyle shouted while fisting the air. Sit down, boy. I'm trying to have a conversation. Kyle hesitantly nodded, then took a seat by me. Then he whispered in my ear while smirking. Remember? Bucket of spiders. I went wide-eyed but shook my head. HS just teasing me. Right. Anyways, Damien said. I'm Damien Hollingsworth. And that's my wife, Suzy. He said, then winked at me. I giggled as Suzy rolled her eyes. Yes, honey. We've already been over that. Oh well, I'm Willow Smith. They both nodded until Damien spoke again. Smith. That sounds familiar. Well, my dad was a beta, but he died when I was really little. He nodded and mumbled to himself. I swear I know that name. He probably tried to make it so that I didn't hear him, but he was a bad whisperer. So Suzy said, we understand you're the only survivor of your pack. How long have you been on your own? Since I was 15. I'm now 18. So 3 years. She nodded. Did you do anything for education? I shook my head. No, Mom. I lived in my old village the whole time. She smiled and turned to Damien. Honey, go make a call to Scott Johnson. You go with him, Kyle. They both nodded and got up from their seats. Then they left the room. So Willow, Suzy said, would you like to listen to some music? She nodded and plucked a remote off the coffee table. When she clicked a button on it, music started to play. I jumped off the couch and started to bounce in place. Oh my gosh. I haven't listened to any in 3 years. Riley started to laugh along with Suzy. Then he stood up and pinched my cheeks. God, Willow, Gillow, you're so adorable. First the phone, then the music. How are you going to react with a shower? Shower. They both began to laugh harder until Kyle and Damien walked back in. Well, it's official, Damien said. What is? Everyone stared at me and began to smile. You're going to school with me and Riley next Monday, Kyle said. SC school. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode of the story, please give it a like. And don't forget to subscribe to get notifications for updates.